In today's video, I want to talk about the new Castos app that we have both for creators and subscribers to private podcasts here at Castos.com. It's an exciting day to finally launch this app and let creators get their hands on a new way for their audience to listen to their private podcast. We're really excited about it. It's a long time in the making, and we really think that it's going to make your publishing experience, your podcast monetization experience, and generally connecting with your audience a whole heck of a lot easier than using any app on any device through RSS. Now, let's just get this out on the table first. RSS is still available. In fact, you can have both RSS available for your private podcast and private podcast app available. And in this video, we're going to break down what that means for you, the creator, and for your audience listeners. Let's start with the private RSS feeds. Now, the private RSS feeds are a huge benefit to you as a creator to let your audience listen to your podcast on any device using any app. That is largely the biggest benefit to why we still continue to use the RSS feed and why we have no plans to ever get rid of the RSS feed for both public and private podcasts alike. As a creator, you can tell your audience that they can subscribe to your private podcast and use whichever favorite podcast listening app they're already using. And that's really the biggest benefit here, is you don't have to disrupt the way your potential audience listeners already listen to their favorite podcast. If they're using Overcast, if they're using native Apple or Google podcast players, they can simply put your private RSS feed right into their app, right into their device, and things don't have to change for them. They can subscribe to your show for free, or if you have a paid private podcast feed, they can still make that exchange of money with you or email address and listen as if they were listening to any other podcast. And that's great. That's great as a creator. It's great when you have such a wide-ranging audience who are already familiar with podcasts. Now, if you're running a private podcast for your company, an internal private podcast, or for training purposes, this is where the Castos private podcast app makes total sense, because in that environment, it's either work-based environment or a crowd of people who have never really listened to podcasts before. You're using audio as a training tool, as an education tool, as a sales onboarding tool, and sometimes people aren't into podcasts. They didn't come here expecting to listen to a podcast. So if you told them to go listen in their favorite podcasting app, they wouldn't have one. So the idea is that we have created an app for you that syncs up to your private podcast effortlessly. There's no copying and pasting of an RSS feed. There's no what is an RSS feed to understand. Users simply type in their email address that you've assigned them for the private podcast, for your company-only podcast, and they get a magic link that's emailed to them in their inbox. And when they click that, it will prompt them to install either the Apple app or the Google Play app. So let's take a look at using the Castos app right here, live and in person. I have a private podcast in my dashboard. We're going to take a look at that right here. It's called Private Podcast of the Century. And we're going to go to our subscriber screen and add a subscriber to this private podcast. So we're going to go new contact. It's going to be me. It's going to be my email address. And I'm going to assign myself to the private podcast of the century. Click add. And behind the scenes, there's an email going out to my phone immediately. And we are going to click on that link that was just sent to me. So here's the email. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to open it up. You can see right here that I have two options. At the top, I can select from either Google Play or Apple Podcast, or I can just click on Listen Now or copy paste the private link, and those are the RSS options. That's if I want to use it in any other traditional podcast playing app. I already have the app installed, but we're going to click on Download on the App Store, and we'll just open that with Safari. It's going to say, hey, look, this Castos app is already installed, and we're going to open it. And now I'll punch in my email address, so matt@castos.com. Click Login. And it's going to say, hey, your magic link is on the way. Check your email. And then that magic link will open up and automatically add all of my private podcasts that I'm subscribed to here at Castos into my app. So no, not even messing around with passwords or logins or social sign-ons. It's going to send you that magic link, and it's going to allow you to click this one button that you see here up on the screen, and that'll log us in to our app. So let's go ahead and hit magic link. And there it is. I'm logged in to my Castos app now on my phone. You'll see 2 other private podcasts because we actually use private podcasting here at Castos as a great way to replace meetings. So we have a show called Inside Castos, where our founder Craig communicates a lot of the big changes to the company, upcoming events, and all that fun stuff. But you can see right at the top, Private Podcast of the Century was added. And when I click that, you see I have these 3 episodes, 2 of which I've not played. The first one I did play. Let's go back. Let's put my phone down for a second. And we go to the dashboard. We'll click on Private Podcast of the Century. There it is. Those are the 3 episodes. Episode 3, Episode 2, and this is a private podcast. And if we go back to our mobile device, you can see those are the same exact 3 episodes. And when you play these episodes, they are streamed only. So they're not actually being downloaded to the phone. It's not something that you can save to your device. And this is largely because a lot of the company-only podcasts that we service now, that is a feature that they want. They want us to stream podcasts only, not allow their employees or vendors to download these episodes. One, because it's just a storage function. They don't want to have to deal with folks having to go back and forth on, I'm running out of storage with all these podcasts. How do I, just another support request. But 2, from a security standpoint, they don't want them to copy, paste, and send all of these podcasts out. And same for you, whether you're doing a company podcast or you're selling coaching or membership-only podcasts, that's the same kind of benefit there as well. Okay, let's go back into the app. And when you play an episode, we're just going to hit play. It's on this one since I've already played it. You'll have some of the same features that you would enjoy from any other. I'm going to pause because I wasn't sure if that's playing actual audio in your ears right now. You're going to enjoy some of the same features as you would any other podcasting app available. You can swipe left to change the volume and the playback speed. Of course, the center image is going to be the cover art or the specific image you have for that episode, and then the description, which is not much here, but you're able to look and see some of the same things. Hit play, rewind 10 seconds, fast forward 30 seconds. And that is fairly straightforward, fairly intuitive, and what you'd come to expect from any other podcast playing app. So let's take a look at going back to the library. On the upper right-hand corner, we can play with just a handful of settings to make the look and feel of the app look a little bit different. We can switch things to a card view instead of a list view or a compact view. It can show fuller cover images of the podcast. We can switch to newest on top, and we can actually uncheck podcasts from showing up on that homepage. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily unsubscribed to them. They have to be unsubscribed from the Castos database. They just simply won't show up on the home screen of your Castos app. And you can see right here, that's the card view, bigger, larger, more engaging cover art, icons for your podcast. And you can see I also unsubscribed or unchecked our other private podcasts, and now it only shows these 2 podcasts right now in the app. So Castos app available in both the Apple podcast. So the Castos app now available in iTunes, in the App Store, and in the Google Play Store. Use these apps as an alternative to having your listeners go and use any podcast app that they want. So that's the trade-off. You can either use the traditional RSS private podcast feed, allow your listeners to use any app, but if you're creating content for listeners who aren't really engaged with too many other podcasts, or you want them to have a specific experience, you can use the Castos app, now available. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. Thumbs up the video if you want to see more stuff like this. Don't forget to send us an email, hello@castos.com, if you have any questions about private podcasting or the app that you saw today. Thanks for watching.